That's funny, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so January 25th, 2026. We are going to be picking up in Deuteronomy chapter 2. We are at the point in time with the Lord's people where they are moving on from Kadesh and on the far side of the river Jordan. It's kind of a dividing boundary line. So they're on the east side, it's called Trans-Jordan, just meaning across Jordan on the other side of Jordan. The Lord's leading them to move on up from the area of Edom and the Esau line, and then through the Ammonites, descendants of Lot, and dealing with some of the folks up there, clearing out that territory so that they will be settled and camped and ready to go for Joshua to take them across the Jordan River onto Jericho and the rest of the Promised Land. So that's where we are. Deuteronomy 2 will be referring back to this, but before we get to that, see, just a quick recap here. So we're in the maybe late summer, heading into early fall possibly, of the year 1407 BC. We're in the 40th year since the Exodus, the last year. So it'll be on the 40th anniversary of the Exodus as far as the springtime goes. They'll celebrate the Passover again, have their Jordan crossing and all of that. So this is that final year leading up to that. This moment in time, 1407 BC, is Middle Bronze Age, level 2B. At this snapshot, moment in time, we have China being led by Emperor Wai Ren of the Shang Dynasty. We have a blackout on my computer for some reason. So let's see what else I can remember. Egypt, there you go, is being led by Pharaoh Mibri Sheshi of the 14th dynasty, which is a dynasty of outside foreigners. It's the lesser Hyksos, or the early Hyksos, which yes means later on there'll be greater Hyksos, a later Hyksos group that comes on, different from this group. These foreigners in this second intermediate period of Egypt, low point for them, they're able to come in because of the Exodus, all the plagues and the loss of the army and the sea crossing and all of that. So easy pickings for these outside foreigners to come in. Babylon is being led by King Amisaduga over here in that land. And we are again with the Israelites as they're moving up from Kadesh along the side here, having gone around Mount Seir, Mount Edom, and on up here. So here's the Dead Sea, here's the Jordan River, there's the Sea of Galilee. So they're making their way up into this area here and dealing with these folks here. And in the line of Christ in the tribe of Judah, with the older generation now officially dying off, the only last men standing of that are Moses and Joshua and Caleb. So now with the younger generation in the line of Christ, tribe of Judah, we have Salmon, who I'm putting at about 19 years old here. Salmon will be the father to Boaz and the second great-grandpa to David. So we looked at the commentary on this passage from Hebrews chapter 3 going into chapter 4, spent time on that last week, and referring back to this generation and the significance for us today. So now we'll pick up in Deuteronomy chapter 2 and see what Moses is saying as he's giving his farewell address, looking back on this time that they were in, taking care of these folks up here on the east side. So Deuteronomy chapter 2, let's look at verses 13 to 15. Moses says, Deuteronomy 2:13, now arise, referring to what the Lord told him, now arise and cross over the Wadi Zered yourselves. So we crossed over the Wadi Zered. Now the time that it took for us to come from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed over the Wadi Zered was 38 years, until the generation of the men of war perished from within the camp, just as the Lord had sworn to them. Indeed, the hand of the Lord was against them, to destroy them from within the camp until they all perished. So even though, as was mentioned in Scripture, the Lord was gracious and didn't just zap them all, strike them dead, like he did the 10 of the 12 spies who gave a bad report, he allowed them to die of natural causes, if you will, in these 38 years, leading us to the 40th, because the time spent and all that stuff. Still, this is a judgment. And this is in fact, as it says right there in verse 15, this was the hand of the Lord to destroy them physically so that they would be purged from the Lord's people, and now this new generation could rise up and go forward. So that's the statement from Deuteronomy there. We'll continue with some other stuff. Actually, let's go forward because we've read that. Let's go further into verses 16 through 18. We had actually read those verses before, but now let's get into some new ones here. So that kind of sets the stage for us. Continuing on verse 16 of Deuteronomy 2. So it came about, when all the men of war had finally perished from among the people, that the Lord spoke to me, saying, today you shall cross over the border of Moab. So now they're going to be moving forward. And I've got, let's see, a slide here. Yeah, Brother Clay.
I've forgotten, I guess, but the Lord spoke to me. Who's me?
Me is Moses. This is Moses. Yeah, Deuteronomy is
Moses is last.
Yep, exactly right. You got it.
Custer.
Exactly, Custer's last stand here. So let's do this here. Refresh. Sometimes it takes a little bit. So we'll actually tack onto this. You can hold a place in Deuteronomy 2. We'll be back and forth between it. Go to Numbers 33. Numbers 33, it's basically a travel log showing their itinerary as they were going. Let's see, got it up here. Let's try another tab. Let's see. Stop the share for a moment. Let me go to minimize that. Okay, can't minimize when recording the meeting. So let's see. Don't minimize. We don't want to minimize anything. This is important stuff. Let's try just going to a different window. Sometimes it gets a little funky dunky. Okay, there we go. There's our lesson plan. Boom. And we'll scroll down here to that. And it's just not wanting to go. Let's see. So anyway, Numbers 33. Numbers 33, verse 45 is where we are at. Numbers 33, 45, they journeyed from Ayim and camped at Dibon Gad. None of these places are places I've been to. And none of these places are places that I recognizing or that others have really identified here. So let's see, let's go back up over here. Let's close that.
And
yeah.
These names of places they camped and journeyed to?
Yeah.
Now those, were there already little establishments there, or are they just areas?
I believe they are just areas. We aren't given populations. We're not given anything about people of these areas. So these are just as they are going, as they are making their way through. This is the landmarks that they are more familiar with than we are recognizing here 3,500 years later and a couple thousand miles across the ocean from them. So yeah, this is more significant in their understanding than it is to us today. So we don't know much about them. Some we know more than others, but these are the places we don't. So now they're moving forward, and we're going to have some victories in battle against some folks on this side of things. So that'll start with Numbers 21. Numbers 21, let's go to verse 16. 1:6. Numbers 2:1, chapter 21, verse 16. Numbers 21, verse 16 says, from there they continued to Beer, that is the well where the Lord said to Moses, assemble the people that I may give them water. So they're going to the beer hole.
Yeah.
The
well.
The well. Beer is actually the Hebrew word for well. So yeah, so all was well at the well. And so
I've heard that call, in the beer joints.
Yep. And so from Numbers 21, we can hold our place here and go back to Numbers 33. We'll be between Numbers 21 is the detail, Numbers 33 is the itinerary, and Deuteronomy 2 is Moses' commentary. So between the three chapters, we'll get the whole deal here. Back to Numbers 33. Let's pick up verse 46. Numbers 33, 46, and 47. They journeyed from Dibon Gad and camped at Almon Diblathaim. Verse 47. They journeyed from Almon Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abarim before Nebo. Nebo is also referred to as Mount Hermon, so we'll talk more about Nebo as we go. Let's see. Can hold our place there, or put a note there. Back in Numbers 21, now we get a little further detail of the story. So Numbers 21, we'll pick up in verse 21. So Numbers 21, verse 21. We'll go down to verse 32. Numbers chapter 21, verse 21. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying, "Let me pass through your land. We will not turn off into field or vineyard. We will not drink water from wells. We will go by the king's road until we have passed through your border." But Sihon would not permit Israel to pass through his border. Instead, Sihon gathered all his people and went out against Israel in the wilderness, and came to Jahaz, and fought against Israel. Then Israel struck him with the edge of the sword, and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, as far as the sons of Ammon. For the border of the sons of Ammon was Jazer. Israel took all these cities, and Israel lived in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon and in all her villages. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab, and had taken all his land out of his hand, as far as the Arnon. For that reason, those who use Proverbs say, "Come to Heshbon, let it be built. So let the city of Sihon be established. For a fire spread from Heshbon, a flame from the town of Sihon. It devoured Ar of Moab, the dominant heights of the Arnon. Woe to you, Moab! You are destroyed, people of Chemosh. He has given his sons as fugitives, and his daughters into captivity, to an Amorite king, Sihon. But we have shot them down with arrows. Heshbon is destroyed as far as Dibon. Then we have laid waste as far as Naphtha, which reaches to Medeba." So Israel lived in the land of the Amorites. Now Moses sent men to spy out Jazer, and they captured its villages and dispossessed the Amorites who were there. So we are dealing with this area up here. Let's see. This got the Zarkar River mentioned here, which is the Arnon, the modern Zarka here. So they're crossing up. So again, the Sea of Galilee at the top there. They are moving their way again. Here's the Jordan River. So they are conquering and settling on this side of the Jordan River here. So they are having their first victories here as they had made their way from Kadesh, coming around and up. Now they're having these victories and off to a good start here. So just any reactions, thoughts, comments, questions on that bit just right there? All good? Yeah, so we're up in this area here. And let's see. There we go. Now we're back in business. So the other side of the Arnon. This is what I was hoping to get to show you all. So this is, so we're in the, so here's the Arnon, the modern Zarka River. So this is the area in green we're dealing with now. Sihon, king of Heshbon. There's Heshbon right there. So we've got the Dead Sea, we've got the Jordan River, and the Sea of Galilee up here. We're dealing with all Sihon of Heshbon in the green, And later, next we'll be dealing with Og of Bashan in the orange up there. So all of this is what they're going to be dealing with in this next little section here. So a lot of territory, a lot of room here. Again, the promised land is all on this side of the Jordan. And so that's where they will be headed. So we can also add on to this, back in Deuteronomy 2, Moses' recounting of what took place here. Deuteronomy chapter 2, let's pick up in verse 19. Deuteronomy 2:19. What Moses talking here, as the Lord spoke to Moses. So this is God talking to Moses, who's now Moses is sharing with the people what took place. Deuteronomy 2:19. When you come opposite the sons of Ammon, do not attack them, nor provoke them, for I will not give you any of the land of the sons of Ammon as possessions, because I have given it to the sons of Lot as a possession. It is also regarded as the land of the Rephaim, because the Rephaim previously lived in it. But the Ammonites call them Zamzummim, a people as great and numerous and tall as the Anakim. But the Lord destroyed them before them, and they dispossessed them and settled in their place, just as he did for the sons of Esau, who live in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They dispossessed them and settled in their place, where they remain even to this day. And as for the Avim, who lived in villages as far as Gaza, Caphtorim, who came from Caphtor, destroyed them, live in their place. Arise, set out, and pass through the valley of Arnon. Look, I have handed over to you Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Start taking possession and plunge into battle with him. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the faces of people everywhere, who, when they hear the news of you, will tremble and be in anguish because of you. Now Moses goes on to tell them, So I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, Let me pass through your land. I will travel only on the road. I will not turn aside to the right or to the left. You will sell me food for money so that I may eat, and give me water for money so that I may drink. Only let me pass through on foot, just as the sons of Esau who live in Seir and the Moabites who live in Ar did for me, until I cross over the Jordan into the land that the Lord our God is giving us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, was not willing for us to pass through his land. For the Lord your God hardened his spirit and made his heart obstinate in order to hand him over to you, as he is today. And the Lord said to me, See, I have begun to turn Sihon and his land over to you. Begin taking possession so that you may possess his land. Verse 32, Then Sihon came out with all his people to meet us in battle at Jahaz. And the Lord our God turned him over to us, and we defeated him with his sons and all his people. So we captured all his cities at that time, and utterly destroyed the men, women, and children of every city. We left no survivor. We took only the animals as our plunder, and the spoils of the cities which we had captured. From Aroer, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, and from the city which is in the valley, even to Gilead, there was no city too high for us. The Lord our God turned it all over to us. Only you did not go near the land of the sons of Ammon, all along the river Jabbok and the cities of the hill country, and wherever the Lord God had commanded us to avoid. So that is Moses recounting what happened here. So they've got all this land in the green now, is now where the Israelites are. And if the names get a little confusing, Ammonite versus Amorite, for example. Ammonite, Ammon, those are descendants of Lot. Moabites are from one daughter, and Ammonites are from another daughter of Lot, after the whole Sodom and Gomorrah thing. And so the Ammonites, they were told to leave alone, that, just as God gave Seir, the land of the Horites, to Esau and the Edomites, so too he has given this land to the descendants of Lot, these Ammonites, so leave them alone, pass through alongside them in peace. So we've got, you see Ammon over here. But these Amorites, which is not the Ammonites, Amorites basically means Westerners. That's kind of where they came from. Even Abraham was sometimes referred to as a wandering Aramean or an Amorite, Aram being Syria. But he's saying these are the people that you're going to have a victory over. I'm hardening them, and I'm done with them. And just like as he hardens the heart of Pharaoh, etc., after Pharaoh had hardened his heart several times. And so they, under God's leadership, they have their victory, and they are now settled in this land, the land of Sihon, king of Heshbon, in the green here. So with that, any questions or thoughts or reactions? Yeah, Brother Clay.
Just two times, the Israelis come up there and, hey, can we pass through peacefully and pay you, and then they end up taking it. Mm-hmm. The second time. So is that the God's plan? Was for the kings of that land to harden their hearts, as they said, and not let them through. And what harm would it have done? But is that the plan for them to continue to grow that area that Israel was going to settle in?
Yeah, again, remember every individual on the face of the earth throughout all time has God-given free will. Free will to go against God, and of course consequences come with it, but it's a free will choice to make. And so they have the opportunity to either be contentious or not. And God being omniscient, these aren't robots who have no say in the matter. They had their free will, but then God said, just like with Pharaoh, okay, you've hardened your heart so many times, okay, now I'm done. I'm putting the final nail in your coffin. There's no more hope for you. God knew these people were done. God had hardened them, and so God knew what was going to take place and what his will was for that based on what people were given him to work with. Remember, the people in Canaan are being booted out of the land because of what they have done contrary to God in the land. Remember, these are all descendants of Noah, the Canaanites being descendants of Ham through Noah. And so they all have knowledge of God to that extent. The whole creation to this day is still under the covenant of Noah, as the whole world is still descendants of Noah. And so while the whole world is not what we refer to as covenant people, like the covenant nation of Israel or the New Testament church covenant people today, scriptural churches, the whole world is still under the covenant of Noah. And so it's their violation of God with that caused the Canaanites to be under the judgment for that to be given over to the Israelites. So to here in the green on this side, what we've just read in Numbers and Deuteronomy, with Sihon the king of Heshbon, the Israelites are now settled. Again, there's the Dead Sea, the Jordan River, and the Sea of Galilee. So now they're settled in the green because this guy, under the covenant of Noah, as everyone is, disregarded God, disregarded his people that he's bringing up and through. And so this is being given over to Israel. So when you hear the phrase Transjordan or the other side of the Jordan, that's on the right-hand side, that's on the east. This is what they're referring to, stuff on this, which includes Gilead, which is a famous city on that side of things. Hello, Brother Tim. Good to see you. Good morning. So that kind of help with that, and kind of the big picture and the play out here. So here's some thoughts from Egyptologist David Roll on the movement of the Israelites up here. He mentions this. Moses certainly would have preferred to take the Israelites through Edom along the King's Highway. See if I can go back to this here. Yeah, let's go right to this one here. Let's see. Try that one. Yeah, so here's the sideways view. So this is the south, this is the north, this is the west, and this is the east. So here they are in Kadesh, and David Roll is saying this. Moses certainly would have preferred to take the Israelites through Edom along the King's Highway, but King Rechem of Edom, he believes it was King Rechem at that time, descendant of Esau, refused permission to allow his distant kin access to Moab and Ammon through his own territory for fear of reprisal from his northern neighbors. They would take too kindly to that. Besides, the Israelites had already demonstrated their military prowess and were perceived, therefore, as a dangerous people who might turn on their hosts. So Rechem relied on his tribal kinship oaths with the others to protect Edom from a full-blown invasion by the Israelites. His judgment proved well-founded. Moses reluctantly took the more inhospitable route, skirting Edom, as we see coming right back down to the Exodus Sea, the Yam Suf, and coming around here, the Gulf of Aqaba, and coming back around up here. There's the brook Zered there. So there's Edom, there's Moab. Now God had told Israel not to mess with the Edomites and Esau, to leave them alone, and they're not. That land is given by God to the descendants of Esau, just as the Moab and Ammon lands are given to them, descendants of Lot, by God. So Egyptologist David Roll goes on to say this. So the Israelite army headed past Oboth and crossed the brook Zered, right there, Wadi El-Hessa, into Moabite territory, continuing along the eastern shore of the Dead Sea to the ruins of Zor, place where Lot had escaped following the destruction of Sodom. They reached the gorge of the river Kerach, up where they climbed to reach the southern boundary of Ammon. Now, in this 40th year after the exodus from Egypt, the slaughter which characterized the Israelite conquest of the Promised Land has begun. So they are moving forward, they are conquering territory, and it is in motion. So everyone's good so far with all that. Okay, now we go into the orange. Now that they're in the green, we're moving into the orange. So this will take us into Deuteronomy chapter 3. Deuteronomy chapter 3, let's look at the first 11 verses. Deuteronomy 3:1. Then, Moses records, we turned and went up the road to Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, came out with all his people to meet us in battle at Edrei. But the Lord said to me, do not fear him, for I have handed him and all his people and his land over to you. And you shall do to him just as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. So the Lord our God also handed over to us Og, king of Bashan, with all his people, and we struck them until no survivor was left. We captured all his cities at that time. There was not a city which we did not take from them. 60 cities. All the region of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All these were cities fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, besides a great many unwalled towns. We utterly destroyed them, as we did to Sihon, king of Heshbon, utterly destroying the men, women, and children of every city, but all the animals and the spoils of the cities we took as plunder. Verse 8. So at that time we took the land from the hand of the 2 kings of the Amorites, who were beyond the Jordan, from the valley of Arnon to Mount Hermon. Sidonians call Hermon Sirion, and the Amorites call it Senir. All the cities of the plateau, all Gilead and all Bashan, as far as Salekah and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og in Bashan. For only Og, king of Bashan, was left of the remnant of the Rephaim. Remember these giant folks. In fact, behold, his bed is a bed of iron. It is in Rabbah of the sons of Ammon. Its length was 13.5 feet, and its width 6 feet, by the usual measurement. So stop right there. So they've conquered Sihon of Heshbon, and they've got all the territory in green. Now they moved up. So there's Edrei, there's the Jabbok River. So Og, king of Bashan, so now they get all this in the orange. And in fact, these were the last of those giants on this side, of those taller people, the Rephaim. In fact, the guy had a bed 13.5, length was 13.5 feet, width 6 feet wide. So pretty impressive. In fact, I did a little digging, I did a little research, and where else have I heard about this bed that was 6 feet wide? So I found something else on a bed. Let's see, what were the stats here? You may have heard of this one. It was 9 feet high, 6 feet wide. Apparently, it was soft as a downy chick. This was made from the feathers of 47 geese. It took a whole bolt of cloth for the tick. It's estimated that it could hold 8 kids, 4 pound dogs, even a piggy if you stole it from the shed. Probably didn't get much sleep, but probably had a lot of fun. Yeah, this is Grandma's feather bed. Yeah, John Denver song, but yeah. Some of us are old enough to remember that. But that was also 6 feet wide. So big guy, big land, and all of that was taken here. So now Israel's got a pretty good foothold and stronghold on this side here. Any reactions or thoughts on that? All good?
So whatever people that were living there, that
Yeah.
those natives or another one, Amorite, so there's none of those descendants left living?
Not from those people. They were all the humans were wiped out in the green and the orange of the locals there, who were contrary to the one true God there.
Settled in
What was that?
Porterville. I said that they settled in Porterville.
I live in
And then they settled in Porterville, yes. And the rest is history. So this is good. So we'll wind this down with where they finally settle in advance of moving forward. So let's we'll close in Numbers. We'll be in chapter 22 and 33. Start in Numbers 22. Numbers 22, verse 1. Numbers 22, verse 1, Then the sons of Israel journeyed on and camped in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan, opposite Jericho. So now they're getting ready there. And Numbers 33, we'll close out here. Numbers 33, verses 48 and 49. Numbers 33, 48, They journeyed from the mountains of Abarim and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho. They camped by the Jordan from Beth Jeshimoth as far as Abel Shittim in the plains of Moab. So as they are settled, so they're back down here towards this area as they are settling in. Keep in mind we're still populated in the millions here and getting ready for the next phase. So we will pick up next week, continuing on in Numbers chapter 22 with the famous event and episode of the talking donkey that takes place on this next adventure. So before we close here, any final thoughts, reactions, comments, questions on the Israelite conquest of Og of Heshbon and Sihon of Bashan and getting ready for the talking donkey next week?
Well, that explains a lot, because I've always wondered, why did it take them 40 years to see it's just across?
Yeah.
Just crossed over.
It took them 40 years because of their unbelief, as we saw talking through Hebrews 3 and 4 there. They were unable to enter because of their unbelief and their disobedience.
And the bad GPS.
And a bad GPS. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it just takes that little explanation, because I'm like, they said across in here, going here, and I'm like, wait, but it's just right
It's just right there.
Why are they taking a long route?
They spent 38 years,
Explaining.
not wandering because they weren't lost, but basically in that Arava Valley, waiting for the generation to die off. And then the Lord said, okay, now turn back. You've come down from Kadesh, back down to the Exodus Sea here, the Yam Suf, the Gulf of Suez. It's not Gulf of Suez, Gulf of Aqaba. And so now it's time, make your way back up. So they go back up. Aaron dies on Mount Hor, and it's the high priesthood passes to his son Eliezer. And then, okay, now we're getting ready for the wind down. So now you can come around. No, you can't go through Edom. No, you can't go through Ammon. You're going to have to come around. But it wasn't the coming around, taking the long route that took 38 years. It was the 38 years hanging around in that Arava Valley, that 100-mile stretch between Kadesh and the sea, the Gulf of Aqaba, where they were waiting for the generation to die off. That's what took the time. Yeah. And so now we're all fresh. We're down to the last generation. Again, we've only got Moses and Joshua and Caleb left of the original generation, and 2 of those 3 will cross the Jordan. And we'll pick up next week with Numbers 22 and the talking donkey. So with that, we'll go ahead and stop our screen share for today, and we'll stop recording this class, and we will get ready to go before the Lord in song and worship together.